Good morning. Janet Kane, the Chair of the Southampton Council on Aging. This is the November 7th meeting of the board, and we are being video and audio recorded. So, welcome everyone. You want to go around and just for the public so everybody knows who everybody is, wave to the camera.
Joan Linehan, Council on Aging Director.
Milda Cohen.
Lori Loiseau.
Catherine Lorgan.
Yvonne Batty Davis.
Nancy Urshio.
Jersey Alderman, Treasurer.
Elizabeth Plow.
Vice Chair.
Vice Chair, sorry.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, the meeting's been called to order at 9:30. Open time for the public. There is no one here from the public, which is always a good sign. Approval of the October minutes. Everybody get a chance to read through those?
Oh, look at this, I got all these. I only need one of these.
Oh,
This
I
nice
printed
big
one, so
package of them.
Anybody need the agenda? Everybody else has it?
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't sure if people had it or not.
Thank you.
The only suggestion I would make, which, I'm sorry I didn't make it earlier, is instead, under like the treasurer's report, when you reference documents, maybe just say, will be posted in the October minute, or in October meeting, instead of with October minutes. On the Southampton, on
meeting
my town,
minutes.
I'm just at mytowngovernment.org, on the October, whatever date minutes, our meeting, okay? Is that all right?
Instead of minutes.
Yeah, instead, just so that way they know where to look for it.
Where is this going to be added?
Treasurer's, under treasurer's report, and there was one other place too, yes.
Yeah, it's under
Yeah.
all
Does that
all
make
of them
sense?
that I get.
So people, because once they see these minutes, they won't see these minutes unless they look up there, so, they won't see, the public won't see these minutes unless they're on the website.
Right.
Right, so then it's also posted on the website, I guess along with the minute, I don't know, just to,
Yeah, they go to the minutes, don't see them.
yeah, I'm rethinking my
Yeah.
thought process.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Lost me.
Well,
Yeah, because they go into the minutes and then
Yeah.
it says other documents.
okay, yeah, okay.
I had to go in order to realize how I was doing this, how I was transferring everything.
Okay.
But it's so much easier.
I had to talk through it out loud.
I get it.
Do we have a motion on the minutes?
Since
I move to approve the minutes as written.
I second it.
Any additional discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Every now and then.
Somebody must have a meeting at 9:30 or 10 o'clock or something.
Little buzzing going over my head.
Okay, update for the Friends.
Oh, okay. I guess the big news is they got their approval from the Internal Revenue Service. So they now are exempt from federal
tax
income
exempt,
tax,
yeah.
right?
Good.
So that was the big news, and...
I think it came in like that afternoon after our
Right,
last meeting.
I think it was, the day of the meeting, actually, yeah. So that was good, and there was much discussion about the luncheons and they're trying something new, which they already did. They tried on October. They had something different, and that proved to be a success. And now, I don't know, next week is the
This week.
November one, and...
This week, Friday, yeah.
Right, and they're trying something different from that, so we'll see what that, but they were very pleased with the October luncheon.
Yeah, I think I'm making 15 pounds of mashed potatoes.
Joan and I were talking about that. Good luck peeling those.
We reduced it in half.
Right.
So they're trying different caterers, just for a detail.
Right.
They tried Costco is where
Well,
they use,
Costco's
and I
where-
know,
For the
and
chickens,
and they
yeah.
also cook their own pasta.
They have
And then
a
the next
different
one, they're
restaurant
doing-
for next week, I don't know. which
Emma's.
Emma's.
In
They
Westfield.
mentioned that, but it wasn't
They have real
finalized.
turkey,
Yeah.
not processed turkey, so they're
Right.
excited about that.
Right.
Nice.
And they have their form put into the November newsletter so that people can join, and they expect to get some income from that, from new people joining, and trying different ways of, to raise money for the center. And they also still need volunteers for the travel club. They're still working on that. And,
So are they organizing the travel club, or are you
Trying.
organizing the
Well,
travel club?
I'd like to delegate it because I don't have time for it, so.
No, I mean to delegate it though to, I mean, the Friends are
Friends
like a
group.
fundraising, so
Right.
maybe we need to look at our other volunteer,
Base.
yeah,
base
versus
for-
putting
right.
the,
There won't be anything till next year, but we have to start planning,
Right.
soon for next year. So, yeah, I'm hoping, like, there was some complication, just to back up a little bit, about the Friends money. All the money went to Friends, and they had to, send out the checks for the deposits and for the, it put a lot of work on Francine and the treasurer, so, and then there was a cancellation, so everybody had to get their money back. So if we had a travel club that was aside from Friends, it would make it a little neater, it would be less complicated for Friends. So I know Yvonne is quite a traveler, and we've spoken about different things. So if we can get some travelers that have ideas of where they want to go and would be willing to organize it, and maybe, I hate to open up another checkbook, that's my fear, is because then you have to have 2 people on that, and then that's another thing you have to audit, oversee. So unless it went through the Council on Aging, which it does in some places, again, that complicates, and Vicki has to send out checks, and that complicates life. So we'll have to research that a little bit before we set it up. See how-
If the Friends are a fundraising entity, then they should not be involved in the travel club.
right, that's what
And
we're
the
saying.
travel club, people that are taking part in the trips, they make out the checks to the organizer of that trip. So it's usually
An individual?
No.
Some places it
Some
is an
places,
individual.
if it's a group that's, they have bus trips, let's say.
Like
And so
Horizon
it's a-
Tours, like
Yeah,
you
and
do
so,
with
yeah,
Love,
so
yeah.
you make out the text, so it doesn't even go through any of the senior center or even the travel club.
So it goes to the tour company?
Directly, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Is that what you're
That's how-
finding?
That's what I've experienced
Yeah.
with like Northampton. It went right to, I'm not sure if it was Ward, but it was one of them.
King Ward?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're different
King's one.
people that
Yeah.
package.
So who would collect the checks to send to King Ward?
There was a specified person in Northampton who collected them. Yeah.
Like a travel person, right?
Yes.
A travel volunteer.
A volunteer.
Because, yeah, I think trying to differentiate between what's fundraising and what's activities, and getting volunteers to help our huge staff at the senior
So the
center.
Friends shouldn't really be involved in the travel club at all? Is that what you're
And,
saying?
well, members of Friends as volunteers to the travel could be,
As a
but it
separate
shouldn't be their
So
responsibility
they're
as a
not-
fundraising,
Yeah.
It's
arm.
not a function, it's not your responsibility, because
Right,
the
right.
person, and they usually have people that accompany the group. So those 2 individuals, depending on the size, they have, and that person sort of is the front, deals with the bus driver or whatever, and so, it's not staff.
Yeah, I mean, it's been cooperative, but, I think that we need to, if we can get a volunteer committee of travel, then that
It
would
was
be the
interesting what
best.
Northampton did on the bus going to, in Connecticut, Samuel Clemens' birthplace, and to a
Hartford.
very beautiful park in Manchester. And one of the things they did that was interesting was they had an actual fundraiser. They had a raffle, what do they call that? The lottery tree. They called it the lottery tree. And for $10, you could buy a ticket for the lottery tree.
East
So that occurred on the
East
bus.
Hampton does the same thing.
I know they do a raffle, but it's just like for a bottle of wine or something,
Well,
or something very...
there are lots of raffles that they
yeah.
apparently do, but like this was
you
right
know,
on the bus,
Yeah.
which was actually fun and funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess we have to work to try to reach out to our volunteer groups and members to see who can lead up that particular travel. Because, I mean, again, it shouldn't fall on you, it shouldn't fall on our fundraiser group, but
attracted a lot of people, so we want to make sure we're able to do it. So we'll have to work on getting a couple of people to really drive that if we
I
can.
think you said you were going to have more information coming.
Well, we worked with a group called Landmark Tours out of Southwick, but we didn't make the checks. We made the checks out to Friends. So I'm not sure if we can still work with them but make the checks out to Landmark.
Can you work with more than one group, like
Well,
King or Ward? or
first of
whatever?
all, it's already overwhelming. The 2 trips we took that had, 40, 60 people, 40 people, 40 or 50 people. It was a lot of work, it was a lot of money to be, collecting. Very worthwhile. I mean, you were on one of the 2. They were very worthwhile, but they are a lot of work.
Yes.
So, I mean, and we don't have a lot of activities in the center right now, so if we, like you said, we attracted a nice group. So if that's something they want, I mean, they can go with Northampton or they can go with East Hampton, but if we're providing it and it's right here in town, they leave from tractor trailer, very convenient. I think it was nice to do maybe 1 or 2, maybe, And we do have a small bus, but it's overworked. They used to take small field trips and they would go to the Butterfly Place or they would go to Deerfield. But it's doctor's appointments take precedence.
Right.
So we don't really have a field trip.
Yeah, we
vehicle.
can't risk canceling the trip at the last minute because the priority is.
So I'm interested to see, maybe I could put out a little survey or a little, what do you call it?
The person who is the primary contact, it's a lot of work. Because just think about planning one trip, how many scenarios can play out with 40 people. Is that, the money coming in time, the
Joan
logistics.
experienced it. Yeah.
And it is a big job. It is a big job. I don't know how Eileen did it for so many years. And, but it was a small group, husbands and wives went more.
But it's
And
nice that
it's still
there's-
husbands and wives.
Yeah.
So it's a nice activity that we don't want to necessarily
But you
move away
can't,
from.
physically you can't separate the senior center from the activity because even if staff shouldn't, because they're going to come in to ask a question or pick up something or deliver something and so, but I think people, if they know who you can make, they're in the center certain days, then that might be a more doable. But you're going to get calls on your cell, you're going to get change and then you're going to...
They do have the box for Friends, so maybe, I was at the Southwick Senior Center yesterday, and they had a box for classes, everything went into one, so you're not always going to the office, and anyway, maybe we could have something for trips, a lock box or something, and said, this is for trips, and keep it separate. That's the problem, they get mixed in with Friends.
Yeah.
Then you gotta separate, because it's all one check for 3 different activities. It's a
Well,
mess.
there'll be a little bit of a learning
Learning curve.
transition.
And retraining, because when we went to the lockbox for the lunches, that was a big deal, because they were going into the staff and handing, and, they were taking the time, but, it needed to be separated because it wasn't one of the duties, so.
And it works very
Well,
well. At least
multiple
have some
choice.
place when something that's for Friends, it goes there.
Good. Okay.
So
I'm sorry to get you all.
No, that was probably the main focus of they need more members. They're
Yeah.
trying to recruit more members, and but they're doing a fantastic job with the membership they have. Yeah.
Good. All right. Director's report.
Take one. If you have a copy, you can just pass it along. It's got flows on the other side too, so if you don't have flows.
I need to. Oh, close. Oh, I didn't.
Flows is on the back. We're trying to save paper.
I made my own.
And I didn't have it electronically. I'll try and get it electronically. So it was a busy month. We were in the paper. That was exciting. For the tea. The Gazette.
I didn't see that.
You didn't see that? Well, I'll pass that around. We have a couple copies.
It was a very, I just have to say, that was a, not something I would normally go on. And-
You don't usually go to teas?
But it was so nice, and the fashion show was so nice, and there were men and women in it, and it was just, and the Cancer Connection, I think it was just a very nice
And it wasn't
event.
difficult, because we had a few different people that were, their expertise was in different areas. So Nancy took over the fashion show, and she was so excited about, going to the Cancer Connection, picking out things, trying them on. She wrote up little cards. And then we had Nancy Hughes, who had done teas at the church. She had a lot of lace and teapots. People brought in their teapots, their teacups. It was lovely. And didn't I give you a free ticket and you didn't come for your birthday?
It was really,
Anyway,
it was super good.
Yeah, there were 50 people there. And what was really special, and I think we had a conjunction with the church because they lent us their little table, so it was the ambiance was nice because it was card tables. There was 4 people, and of course the center, I think, looked lovely. It did. And anyway, I was very pleased with our, first major out-of-the-box function, although the church has had them right along, and they're going to have one in this spring. But it kind of happened, they were supposed to have one, and it fell through. And Nancy's husband's been being treated for cancer, so she couldn't be involved. So she was happy to help us as much as she could with her expertise, and I think it went well, and I'm glad we got coverage. So anyway, so it was social, but it was fun. And
It was a great community reach out
right.
because of the church people.
Yeah.
I just stopped at the fair real quick Saturday morning, and it was so nice because now you know all these people. So it's the community unity between the senior center and the church.
And there's a lot of overlap, I know many of you know, and I'm not sure if you're included, the chorus has started coming on Wednesday nights here.
Yeah,
The practice.
somebody
Yeah,
told
to
me.
rehearse. And again, we're opening up the center for the community to use, so it's being utilized. I don't want to go about the politics about that whole thing, but right now they're here, and I think they're having a good old time, and they're using our piano. Our piano's being used more than I ever thought it would. I'm thrilled. Anyway, things are going along. I was able to go.
I have a question,
for me?
yes, I do.
Yes.
And more because we have a couple of new members, so. So when we have a tea dance, can you explain the process for collecting the funds for that? Because that's a center thing, not
Okay,
a...
so what we did is made tickets, and
Okay.
so we sold a ticket, and the ticket was reasonable, like $5, I don't remember, $5. And luckily, people brought food, so there were scones, and there was egg, what do you call
Deviled
them? Deviled
eggs.
eggs, and there was all kinds of little things, and desserts, and so it was like a potluck or a community supper, but it had to be organized. So, there were a few last minute things like the cleanup I didn't consider, because all that china has to be hand washed. So luckily there was a group that stayed behind, including Janet and Francine and Laurie, and so we were thrilled to have that. Yeah, I know, but I didn't even think about it. I don't know why. That's why we use paper, right? Because you could throw it away. But it was elegant, and it was nice, and there's only one casualty, I think one broken creamer, so it was good. But yeah, I think,
Excuse me.
bless you. If we had a committee for the event, like we did the walk, where people were in charge of this, somebody in charge of cleanup, setup. The setup people came, last minute to help set up, and that was big, that was huge. So events are nice, but like you said, with small staff, we really have to rely on organizing volunteers to help us. And I think people are out there and are willing to do it. We just have to figure out what needs to get done. So I made tickets, we sold the tickets, and most of it was organized by Nancy Pulley. And then we just would talk to people as they came in. Do you have a set of china? Do you have 6 cups? Do anybody have a teapot? So it worked out. We had, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 teapots. Did you bring your teapot?
Yep,
I got.
it's back in lunch.
I know, I've got one from Ireland that was my my mother-in-law's, so I mean, everybody gets to take things out that they don't normally use, which was kind of sweet. Anyway, I don't want to belabor that.
Good, thanks.
So we've got the $5,500 earmark, and we're going to talk about that later. Okay. That was a great thing. how many communities? 11, 18, 17, whatever?
I think he said 11.
Yeah, I think so.
11 communities got it, so they're all doing different things. Many of them are doing in conjunction with like vocational schools, et cetera. So we'll talk about that later. I was able to go to the conference. I came back rejuvenated. It's like a retreat, and you get to network with people from all over the state, people that have smaller communities like we do. Because obviously, in a big community, you have more staff, you have more money, you can do more things, you have a bigger center. We're a small community, small center, but we can do a lot here. If we think about, we look around and see what we have, and we can do things in conjunction with other centers as well. So I did take a couple walks with Norditrack walking. That's one of the new programs, because you're using your arms and your legs. It's just the sticks. And it's just an additional thing, but you're getting upper body as well as lower body, plus it stabilizes you. So I'm looking at that program maybe for the spring. Anyway, there's numerous things that I thoroughly enjoyed going. I know it's expensive, but I think it's important. We do get to network, like I said. And I'm also taking the certification, which is a year-long process, and you have to get the demographics of the town you're working in, and you have to report to the MCOA, which is right here in East Hampton. And every month you have to present them with some research, either about your own, what my background is, my resume, et cetera, my certificates that I've had, and what. Anyway, I'm hoping within a year, January 2020, I guess, would be a certified director, which doesn't mean anything except that I'm validated. So, and I think it's important.
Our validation's not sufficient.
I am so happy. I can't tell you, like I said, I went to the Southwick Senior Center, and I looked around and how busy it was, and I don't know, there may be 3 times as large as we are. I haven't looked at their population. But I thought to myself, I don't know what the key is to get people, but the people I spoke to were from Connecticut. The 2 people that I met, they came over the line to, they have inexpensive trips, they have inexpensive classes. Tai Chi was $2, and they have a wonderful instructor, but they're a bigger organization, and they've been, working at it for a long time.
They also have night activities, right? Because I have a friend who goes to Pilates and...
Yeah, a lot of them do
things.
have evening programs, but you have to be creative in how you do that. Somebody has to have a key. Well, we have chorus now here. And so we don't have the space to do more than one thing. But we have those options for maybe the future. We also had a dance. We got rid of all our furniture, and we had a dance. We had about 25, 26 people. It made my heart good, because dancing is one of my favorite things, and people are having fun, and people are up, and the music is uplifting. And anyway, so that we're going to do again in the spring. And so, as you know, everybody got a newsletter. Hopefully, did you all get one in the mail?
Oh, not yet.
No?
I didn't get one.
You didn't?
I picked up one.
So there is a glitch, because Flo didn't get one either. So we're going to have to look at that
I
list.
saw it, I got mine in an email, but I said I didn't need it to be mailed, so
No,
I
this was
fine.
just the mass mailing.
We did a mass mailing of
it should come
everybody
out
over
to-
60. So, and you
probably
didn't
why.
get one either? That's awful.
When did they go up?
The last 100 went out Monday, but there was 1,100 and something went out
Well, yeah,
a week or
I
2
thought
ago.
it
We had a group that
Like
came in.
on the
just-
31st to 1st, around that. So it was just at the end of, was it the
30th?
So it's just been a week, so I don't know.
But they came in the next day. We've had some returned already. And I got a call, my mom's been deceased for 2 years, so we really do have to upgrade our
Because
mailing.
I think, there may be an updated
And you
list.
told me there was
I
an
think there's an
updated list,
yeah.
so
Of
I'll
course,
work with
they're a
them.
year old already, so it's possible.
Well, but that should add another group of people on. You know, we should be adding everybody else who turned 60 this year. So, anyway, we do have to work on the mailing. We do have some mailing through my senior center, which I could make labels from that too as well. So, anyway, I'm excited we're doing a Gangsters in Love, which is, was supposed to be our senior theater program, and we didn't have any takers that wanted to do senior theater, so we hired a group to put on a show for us. And we're gonna have an Italian meal, meatballs and spaghetti or something, and salad and cannolis.
So do we have a set up and cleanup committee?
Not yet, but we
volunteers
will. I'm heading it. I'll
When
be
is
here. I'll be here.
It's a week from
the-
Friday. It's an evening event as
Right.
well.
It's 5 o'clock on
It's the 16th.
the 16th.
Oh,
So,
okay.
think about it. We'd love to have you and your husband, and you could even
He'll be in
work.
California, but I can certainly help out.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we do not have a committee to help. It's Darlene and I right now. So, we'll work on that.
Where did you, I think you mentioned this at the last meeting, where is the money coming from
From
for
the
that one
grant.
shot?
The grant. Oh, for,
The state formula grant?
oh, the 5,500 or no?
No.
No.
Pay for what?
The newsletter you just made
That
reference to.
covers
Yeah,
it.
state formula.
State formula
It
grant.
was listed in
So
that.
that's,
Yeah, we put, actually, we put aside, what, 1,700?
Yeah.
But we only spent, right now, we spent about 800.
So maybe if we get an opportunity to do a second one.
Is it
newsletter 880.
Yeah, that was when we had the lower amount, and then we went back to the original one because the dollar amount was.
This was attached to the financials that we got from Josie.
Anyway, we made it. We made it because we only spent
At
7.
least
On
I
the email.
copied each.
Yeah. The state formula grant.
I'm glad
And
you
this-
do that.
Yeah, it's right here. This was my
I thought it
original,
was high, that's why, but I had.
this was my
highlighted.
original worksheet, I guess, that we were using, but that was based on a 13.5 and we have 14.4. So we went back to the,
Well, can we
this
get
was
it-
our
Can we
conservative.
get the one that we're
We
using?
can.
So it's
Get that updated.
1,700?
Yeah, it was 1,700, yeah.
But Josie should have it, but maybe, because it was part of all the
Well, it was in
attachments.
it was in the,
It's on your worksheet.
The
It's in a
worksheet,
tab, yeah,
right.
so we'll have to
Yeah.
update the tab.
Yeah, that's all.
okay,
Okay.
yeah.
I can look at doing that too, Josie.
And then Flo had her reports on the other side, but she's been very, very busy. She only has 2 hours a day, twice a week, so her hours go by very quickly.
I'm just, in case anybody wants to do the thing on the 16th, set up and clean up. I'll just,
I'm there, so you can add me.
well, I'll just pass it around real quick, but then I lose my agenda. Here, do it on this blank one. No, that'll be okay.
You want this one?
No, that's okay. I'll
I'm
get
not
it back
supposed to
at
put
the end.
myself on the
Your
committee?
staff. No, I mean your staff.
Okay.
I'll be there.
Anything else?
Overachieving
Anything else
staff.
coming up in December, forward-wise, that you
Oh,
want to talk about? Because
So December, we will be taking the week off between Christmas and New Year's again. We found that, they're really, between the weather and the holidays breaking up, family time and everything else, that, there's 3 or 4 days. It helps with the budget as well, so we take it off without pay, unless we use it as vacation, whatever, we get the holiday. So,
Okay, and anything else, any other big events? I know we'll meet at the beginning of December, but anything else? Because the
we'll probably have
calendar
the
comes out
calendar
in
won't be
a
out
couple
for
weeks.
another week, yeah. So we do what we did last year, which was we had like a mini bazaar, and they'll have their Christmas party, and I'm not sure that we'll have the employee party. We may want to think about that, because Janine is retiring, and I think there's something scheduled on November 29th for her
In the center.
in the center. So I'm not sure, it'll be up to Ed, I think, if they wanted to do a potluck for all the boards. Remember we did
Yeah.
on a Monday. So I don't have December planned yet, but I will by next week.
Okay. It's if people, I'm going, so.
All right, written reports. Madam Treasurer.
Well, hopefully, you received the email, and I forgot, I'm sorry, I don't think.
You got it.
You did get it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you to the chair.
So if you send it out to the COA board,
I did.
yeah, and they've been added to that
Okay.
list, so everybody
Well,
gets.
that's
And we
very
even added
nice.
Nilda, finally, right, Nilda?
So did everybody get my report twice? Because I sent it out to COA board, but then I didn't trust myself, so I sent it out.
This is.
Oh, I got it.
This one?
Yeah.
To the group?
Yeah, just have a movie theater, dinner, cleanup, setup, that kind of thing, if one has time to do that.
The
It's 5 p.m.
16th,
to 7:30 p.m., I think. Is that time right on that, Joan, 5 p.m. to 7:30?
Yeah, so setup would be
I think on the paper
earlier.
it says 5 to 7:30.
Five.
Yeah,
So
okay, 5 to
set up,
7:30.
I'm probably gonna set up by 2:33. It's a Friday, so
Okay, I can
we're
help with
closed until I open. So
Right.
I may be in by 2:30, I would think.
Okay, okay.
And I haven't figured out.
Yeah.
if That's donated time.
I can't because
You're
I
not-
think that's my, the final rehearsals
I mean,
before
I
our
just give
concert.
everybody the opportunity. I'm not asking for, I'm not trying to put anybody on the
You're
spot.
on the list. We're mandated, no, I'm just kidding.
Okay, thank you. All right,
I'm
great.
using paper for that one, so we can throw away.
Okay,
Oh, good, clean up.
we've got
will be
lots of
easy.
paper in there.
Okay, so, were you all able to get into it? Look at the various cell information and stuff like that? And I guess the question is, do you have any questions? I think you've got the information.
So Josie, the question I had asked beforehand about the $125 under local revenue, do you have a summary for that on what was included in that? I know you.
Oh, for the last,
For 11.9.
oh.
I know we had
Oh,
for
is
the
that
other
what you were
ones.
asking?
Yeah, that was the question.
I didn't catch that.
Sorry.
Let me see.
I know the previous, yeah.
And you know what?
It's the
I'm
yoga
wondering if I
classes,
duplicated
it's the-
that.
That's usually is the yoga
I may have-
classes, the exercise fees. We get about 4 exercise fees a month.
So you think that's just a duplicate from the month before?
I'm thinking that I may have just, when I added that line,
Uh-huh.
that I may have
Oh,
just
okay.
duplicated it and it's duplicate. That's-
No, they're similar, though. I think there was 2 deposits,
There
2
were?
transfer, what do they call it? Transfer? What do they call
Let me
it?
see.
Turnover. There were 2 turnovers, and they were similar amounts. But
So
it's
again,
for yoga.
For Nancy Yvonne, so usually in that, in the local revenue, we collect money for the tea and fashion show, right? And ticket sales for the tea and fashion show. Catherine, or the yoga, somebody buys a yoga class, somebody buys, uses the exercise equipment for the month, so those are the kind of.
So I only have
And
one warrant, so I probably copied this. If there's another one out there, then I need it.
Okay, I'll look in my paper.
Okay.
Yvonne's very familiar because she's one of our donors.
Yes.
yeah, so if you sign up for the yoga class for the month, is it $30 for the month?
It's 6 weeks.
Or for 6 weeks, okay. And then the yoga class is $5 a class? Is that how it works? Okay. And the exercise equipment, to use the equipment for the month is $5. And so that's kind of goes into the local revenue column. And is that usually cash? Here's my money?
Checks.
And checks, okay. It
Checks
has
or
to be
cash.
checks?
Well, no.
Okay,
Can
checks
be
or cash.
either.
And then that goes to Vicki and she deposits in the
It goes
local
to the
revenue.
collector, actually.
Oh, the
Treasurer's
collector,
office,
okay, okay, to the collector's office.
But Vicki gets a copy because she has to do the accounting.
Right. So I don't know if you have any questions, just kind of seeing the treasurer's report for the first time, or anybody else have any questions?
Got it. How did you get it colored?
Yeah, color printer.
You have a color printer.
You need the colors, how else can you?
So any other
Yours look better than mine.
questions
I'll
on
print it
that?
out for you.
So Josie, when we get that updated number for the 9th, which I
Yeah.
know is still to come.
So you need to know what the 11.9, what the donation is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the
Just
turnover.
verify that for me.
11.9 verified turnover.
Yeah, because I don't have any.
Okay.
Okay, I will look that up for you.
And I know it's not, it's a financial question, not necessarily for Josie, but for us, because Richard's going to be going out for surgery on his knee.
That's on my report.
That's on your report, so we kind of skipped over that. So maybe, can we get an update on that and when he's going out and what our
So
plan is to
his
replace him?
date is the 15th of January, and he's suffering right now. He's using a cane. It can't be soon enough. He was supposed to be April, and moved it up to January. We have 2 applications, well, one in hand and one, we sent out an application for somebody to fill out. I did check Highland Valley, Michael from Highland Valley recommended checking with the local council on aging in the area, see if they had any extra drivers. I did talk to Jen about Huntington, and she didn't recommend him. So, this one gentleman, well, there's 2 gentlemen, they both have driven before. I'm sure they'd have to probably come by the board. Maybe we should have them come to the next meeting, I don't know.
All of a sudden, it's going to be January, yeah, maybe. Or if there's
How long
somebody.
is the fill-in for?
6 to 8 weeks.
And Hank can't take on any of that?
He took on, I'm going to
doing
check with him,
it.
he's working full-time in East Hampton.
Is he working here at all anymore?
He has worked on Fridays. There was nothing this past Friday, so he didn't work Friday. People will call, and we've already made a decision not to have anybody because there's nobody signed up, and people will call on Thursday afternoon, you know, and you know, we've been giving out a lot of volunteer names on transportation so that if the van is not available, at least they have a ride. So we had a problem this morning because we didn't work yesterday, so there was a problem with transportation first thing in the morning this morning. So it's difficult. Transportation is difficult. We're trying the best we can. We only have 1 vehicle and 1 driver per day. And I've had to substitute. I've done 3 or 4 drives myself. We can't strand people out there. We've got to bring them back, get them home. So I wouldn't mind having you know, in the long run, we should really have a vehicle and a driver, even just a small vehicle. It doesn't have to, it could be a car. I mean, other communities have it, but I know we're small and we don't have a lot of money. I don't know.
Can you get anything for $5,500? Just
No,
kidding.
you need about 20 to 30,000, as obviously, because that's what we
Yes,
have from
that's
Frida. So, transportation is one of the toughest things. I've been working this business over 20 years, and transportation is the most complicated of the whole thing. Is to get people, it's communication, it's getting them safely to their places. It's expensive because of gas and insurance. So,
Maintenance of
How
your own
maintenance?
car?
When volunteers drive, how does that work with our insurance?
So that is their insurance. Obviously, it's like having a passenger in your car. So if you've taken on that responsibility to bring somebody, then it's their insurance that covers them. It's like you bringing your sister, your brother, your kiddo
Do we
in the
have
car.
people sign a waiver so that they're not suing the town?
We have not had a waiver signed.
Whether that's necessary or not, I don't know, but it's...
Yeah, I mean, I do volunteer driving, so, you know, I don't even think about the insurance side of it, but I guess that's probably an important thing to consider.
I know
I
it's,
think as an individual, you wouldn't ask the person you're
To sign a
taking for a
waiver.
waiver. However, you should let your insurance know that
That you're doing
at times you are transporting individuals through a volunteer basis. You're not getting compensated because the liability issues can be really huge. I mean,
Your insurance.
I've been with nonprofits that, you know, we had auto insurance for the employees that transported, but if you did it where you weren't in that category, because they do classify also the individuals that are doing it, you know, you're taking on, and anything can happen. And then, you know, the relationships change when people get hurt. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
well, this Uber thing has gotten very popular, and I know they have to have riders and other things, right? If you're an Uber driver, you have to have a bigger insurance.
Right.
So,
When your insurance is renewed every year, that's one of the questions on your renewal. Do you transport at any time? So the insurance company will be aware that you're doing it.
So I guess, and we probably need to talk to, you should talk to Ed as well about, do we need to post a job? Do we need to do anything legitimately
yeah.
for getting a substitute driver? And that would probably is your...
One of the
Direct
key
supervisor.
issues when we've been very fortunate in getting that we had, what was the other person that was here forever? Hutch. And then we had a backup for him, and it worked out fine because they work very harmoniously, and they
It was
each
Jim.
cover. Jim.
Yeah, Jim was
And then we hired, so Hutch was here before me, and then Jim, Richard, and Hank have been, you know, when I was on the committee we interviewed them. And one of the things that we had the most difficult, we had a number of candidates that came forward, but, you know, it has to be the right personality, it has to be someone that knows the community because, and particularly if it's an alternate, they're not out there all the time, so, you know, the little, it's not even request from an individual, but where do you pick them up on the side? Do you bring the van close so that they're not, so it takes a while to get that perfect fit. And so having two fill-ins is going to be tricky because either one of them, unless one takes more of the responsibility.
Well, I would only hire one, I think.
But you really need two because you say Hank is barely available, right?
Well, he's only hired for
Oh, he is?
Fridays,
Oh.
yeah.
Oh, he's
works
committed
Fridays.
on Fridays, okay.
But he's not back up during the week.
He's
If-
not back
if
up.
he's,
So you're
if
thinking
Richard's
maybe
not
we
around.
should hire two backups?
well, a backup and.
Well, when we hired
Set backup to
Hank,
the backup.
he was reducing his hours in East Hampton, so there was that opening that if we needed him during the week, because there's some things going on there, I don't know.
And now it's
exactly.
happening
But-
just the opposite.
Right,
They
right,
lost
yes.
their right, so he's
Right,
gone back to
right,
work,
yeah.
yeah.
So-
When we interviewed Hank, he said that he was on the list in East Hampton, but he got very little usage. And exactly what Joan is saying, now it's reversed.
Yeah.
Now they need him
Now
all
he's
the
popular,
time.
yeah.
But we knew, that's why he was glad for, Fridays.
One individual is planning to sell his house in the spring, so he would only be temporary, he would only be for, maybe the winter months. But it may not be bad to have two.
Yeah. What about Jim?
Yeah.
I wonder if he'd be interested. He left because he lost his wife was sick, his wife died, and then he got sick.
He got sick. But I heard he's driving for Lathrop or,
Oh, maybe.
yeah, that he's, so I was even surprised because the last conversation I had with him, he was waiting for surgery, so I didn't know whether he was even going to, because that's sitting a lot, and, his situation was,
What's his last name, do you know?
I'm not sure we should
Lumbra.
discuss
Yeah, this
that.
is, this is kind
Oh,
of,
we're
yeah.
being
We're
recorded.
being
Oh,
recorded
wow.
from a, thank you.
Oh, he was an employee.
Thank you.
We didn't put his last name. But, yeah. Okay, so we just need to be looking for.
Yeah, so
Be aware that
there
we're
has to, yeah,
representing.
we're aware that we're going to be,
And
and I guess the
I do.
process is we choose somebody or two people, and then they have to be trained,
Yep.
and they have to go for
You have to give them at
physicals.
least a little overlapping time so that they can,
Right.
Now, would
So
we
it-
hire them as a per diem type of
Correct.
thing?
Well, that's what I'm guessing.
Or maybe the one as a temporary and then another as a per diem, and then that person could
And that
be
was
back up?
the which group?
PPPB?
PP.
Well, I think we need to start with Ed and,
Okay.
and then also maybe go to the PPPB meeting to see what we need to do, because, we're not,
There's forms, I know there's.
Yes.
but-
so
Is-
yes,
is-
that's why we have an HR person here to
is
keep us in
Richard
line.
going to,
He's
does
gonna
he have
come
any
back.
benefit time? I can't.
He has
remember.
Again, I'm not sure we
vacation.
should be discussing that on recording, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will look into that, that's a good question.
Okay. But yeah, let's
Should I
get
make
with
a
that.
motion to accept the treasurer's report?
Do we have a second?
Well, we talked about everything outside of the treasurer's.
Well, I did bring it up because it is a financial issue, so.
Do we have a second?
Second. Can I second?
Yeah. I don't know why, not.
Okay, can't make the
All those in
motion.
favor?
Aye.
All right, Highland Valley, Nilda, thank you for sending this out.
Well, did it get forwarded to other people? I didn't.
I
send
didn't
it
see
to-
anything.
I know, I'm
Janet,
sorry,
you
I didn't
sent it to
realize you
everyone.
didn't send
Yeah.
it to everybody. I didn't look, so.
So the report, I can make copies and I'll send it to you because it's very pretty. It really centers around the October 4th annual meeting, which was a combined expo entitled Aging Well. Janet and Josie came. It was from 4 to 5:30. Basically, it was new to even the board members because we did something very different that was under the charge of the marketing committee. So the setup and sort of the flow of how it was going to run was all new to us, so I couldn't share with you until I got there. And so basically it was the contractors, the providers that work with primarily the home care component of Highland Valley. So they were featured and they had individual tables in terms of what they do, either pamphlets, they had all little goodies that people went around and collecting. Anybody that's gone to a health fair, geared towards seniors. And then the program, the expense of the event was primarily supported by businesses, Cooley Dickinson, some of the providers that were there. And we think based on, and Josie and Janet can speak to what their perception was, because I did go around and talk to a couple of people, but there was some staff there. There was people from the outside, the providers, and so in terms of the distribution of the split of who came, in terms of the outreach that was done, because there was a release that was sent out, and how effective that was in reaching, the hope was that COAs as well as people in providers, whether it was caregivers at home, would have a chance to kind of meet those individuals that they might call and contract individually. So I think for a first try, it was good. That's where we've had our meetings, our annual meetings, so the site wasn't unusual or new to us, and the setup was completely, I didn't care for the middle section. It looked like an auditorium type sitting, and then there were supposed to be tables, but there were few. But the intent was to keep people moving, and I think for an hour and a half, those who also wanted to sit quickly, we sat. Jan and I spoke for quite a while, and I was sitting and with a couple of other people, but it was.
Did they have any awards that, I know they
did?
Was there a presentation? Because we left, but
There was a very brief, there was.
So there's really no one agenda that kind of laid out what the flow
nobody,
was.
even I didn't know, because at one point there was one of the board members of the office is going to be sworn in, and then they had 3 people over on the side that I didn't know who they were, but they were the ones that worked in Amherst, and they had contact with, the different components, the protective group that they have contact with the local police, and so they were recognized, and there were only 3 people. But it was unstructured, and we wanted it that way because we didn't want people to feel that they were going to be sitting for a certain amount of time listening to people talk, and it was very hot in that outside area. That was another thing. Everybody wanted
Sun
to
was
come
kind
in.
of beating them.
Yeah. But anyway, so we'll see what happens next year.
Yeah, it wasn't anything like I expected.
No.
I expected some sort of a program
Yeah.
where they present something, even tell us more about Highland Valley's connection to various groups. And, it was good to go around, but it was like, okay, here's a freebie.
Here's a pen,
And
there's a pen.
I
Was there
talked to
food?
people.
Did they have
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never saw the food. I think somebody
It was
came
behind
with
you on
it.
the
They
table.
had beverages.
Where was it?
Yeah.
There was a big table.
Or the
Oh,
beverage, there was
see, I
like,
never made it back there, I
Yeah.
think.
too many chairs, I think, for, but I did get a chance to talk to the executive director for a little bit and meet a couple other area people, somebody from
What's
Chesterfield.
his name, Alan?
Alan.
Yeah. There was a lot of discussion and basically coming more from me because I felt that there needed to be a program. The showcasing of Highland Valley and the relationship of Highland Valley with the different communities and the connection was more important. The financial didn't have to be out there, but I was, this was...
That's the annual
And so-
meeting, though, they usually have to put out the financial, right?
Well,
Part of
the only
annual
thing
meeting.
that they do is, they can speak to the fact that, the agency's doing well, or it has this in terms of, let's say they're gonna do a new programming, so that's the time to say,
Right, to
we're
tell the
providing.
community, yep.
But, I didn't feel that, as a board member, that was really an annual meeting of the board in conjunction with a health expo. I would separate the two. You can't mix them.
Yeah.
So, but,
We're having a health expo here on the 14th, just as an aside, I'm
November?
sorry, of November. And maybe I can get Highland Valley
November
to come.
14th?
It's a Wednesday.
All right, next on the agenda is the discussion of amending our bylaws to look into the addition of term limits. So I know I did some research on other local boards and what they're doing and some of the language that they used, one from Amherst and one from Westfield.
Yep.
And I can just, let me just see, did I print out the right page?
I have them if you don't.
Yeah. And so I'll read from Amherst briefly. Do we have copies or no?
I have some copies.
Okay.
We can share.
I didn't know you love listening to my voice, but.
There we go. This one is mine.
And you made a number of other calls for Granby and Northampton, and they all
Yeah, I
have
called.
term limits involved.
I called 5 different centers. If people can just share.
And just to review from our bylaw, we have the council shall have the power to amend the bylaws in the following manner. The proposed amendment of alterations by the bylaws
I'm sorry.
shall be approved by an affirmative vote by 2/3 of the members of the council. So that's our bylaws and
which
how,
what number is that, Jim?
that's section 21 for our bylaws, yeah. So, and we can discuss it today and probably
This is Amherst.
take it for a,
So big.
take it for a vote at the next meeting, but,
This is just one page? Oh, just the page.
As soon as Janet's done, I will
Oh,
speak on
sorry.
what
Okay.
it is.
okay, Lori, and thank you for doing some research.
Okay. I called different COAs and said we were working on bylaws. Could I get some help from them? They were more than glad to cooperate. I did not speak to any council on aging that did not have term limits. Every one of them has term limits, and the term limits are 2 3-year terms, thank you. And then the person has to take a year off and then can come back to the board.
And it says
if there's
plus
an
any
opening.
portion of, like, if you start,
Right.
you know.
And in this case, everyone who sits on this board, with the exception of Nilda and Dorothy, and our 2 alternates, we are all fill-ins from someone else. Someone else either died or
Incomplete, yeah,
resigned.
yes, you fill out. the-
So that portion doesn't count. So when you get around to being nominated again, that's your first. because of filling time.
So to come back as an automatic, you've got to sort of apply again
You would have to
or go
apply
through the
again.
same procedure?
Right.
Okay.
Even after the first term limit, you need to, fill out the paperwork like we did after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to
Filling.
reapply.
Yeah.
You have to,
Yeah.
It has to be
And I have,
reappointed by the.
Oh, I do have
select
a
board.
list of all the names and when your term ends. And everyone, with the exception of you, Nilda, is the first time serving. It's their first term.
Yeah.
But I got the dates from Janine. Anyhow, if you go to the
Was it Dorothy's been on the board since like,
07,
no, I think even before that, but 07, okay. I thought it
yeah,
was
07
even-
was,
Do you know where
She
she
was
is
on.
today?
She sent me a message before you came in, I guess I mentioned
she was on
wasn't
before
up to par.
I was.
Yeah.
yeah,
When did
she
you
was
start,
Yeah.
Hilda?
13,
13 or
23. I just checked with Janine the other
13.
Yeah,
day.
that's what Janine has anyway.
Yeah, that's in her records. So if you look at the Amherst one, and you go down to the very bottom where it says membership, that's the part, that's why you only have one page.
Ew.
Because when I spoke to Rosemary, that's all I needed was membership.
Okay.
I didn't need their bylaws.
That's it.
So you can read, obviously, I don't need to read that.
So if somebody's applying, what you're saying is that they would automatically do a two-term cycle, like 3 years each term, right? So they wouldn't have to reapply.
No,
after
they would
that.
have to
They would
reapply.
have to
So
reapply.
the selectman is still doing a
Yes.
3 years. oh,
Right.
yeah.
Every-
But after the second 3-year term,
You drop.
they have to take a year off.
Right, right. You
Off.
drop off the surface out there.
Get a
And the
new
reason
perspective.
And, and everybody agreed that the reason, and they all worked through the executive offices of elder affairs. Tina especially at Westfield was very
Yeah.
adamant about that. When they redid their bylaws, that's who she worked with. Emmett is very concerned about term limits.
Yeah.
Well, he brought it up. I think that's what, when we were at the meeting in Northampton, he's the one who was emphasizing
Term
you should
limits.
have term limits. So.
And the reason for this is because, like now we have Nancy and Yvonne, you get fresh, new ideas, because we all get stale after a while. It becomes rote. You come
Yeah,
in.
we
and-
weren't that important to COA members, so everybody just kind of went. Nobody was knocking on the door
Come in.
and said, and the selectmen weren't interested in us, so we just,
But that
we
has
was a
taken
warm
on
body.
a
Yeah.
whole new complex, and compliments to Joan, because she has gotten interest to the board.
Mm-hmm.
We now have 2 alternates that will be on the board sooner than they think.
and look at the new, yeah.
Oh, these lovely new faces.
So anyhow, so Article 4 membership, that is what Amherst is using. And then the other one is from Westfield, and that one is up at the very beginning of the page.
So the major
Yeah,
difference,
this just doesn't have a heading. Okay.
yeah, it's under membership for the Westfield one. The major difference in the two, Lori, that I saw yesterday after last night, interrupting my poll watching, was the sentence that they have a town manager instead of the select board, so I'm going to just substitute the select board for 3 years. And the select board may or may not appoint a sitting COA member for a second term. That was normal. Wait, let me see. Oh, okay, the next paragraph where it says, no person shall serve more than 2 terms in succession, plus any portion.
Are you looking at the Westfield?
I'm sorry,
No, the Amherst one.
minutes.
Oh, well,
I'm
Amherst
sorry.
still, okay.
All right, wait a minute.
Okay,
Sorry
You
about
lost
that.
me too.
In the
Yeah.
Amherst one, I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay,
You
T.
guys aren't reading my mind yet? No. Sorry about that. Under the membership, the second paragraph where it says,
It is
unless
recommended.
the town manager determines otherwise. That's the only difference as far as a third term. They have that little caveat in there that says unless for some reason the town manager or select board, I guess, determines otherwise. So that's the main difference between the two that I saw. between Westfields. Otherwise, they're pretty
Where
much,
is it in the Westfield?
And there should be
third
that,
comment
because,
down.
let's say,
At the top of the.
you still have to have a quorum, so there's
right.
a last
Yeah, flip that over.
and you have to have that wiggle room.
yeah. And you don't want to
It's because
have
it was
somebody
double
leave
sided.
and have less than the 7 members, you know,
Right,
so.
right, whatever you need for a
I-
quorum, yeah.
So I kind of lean towards the Amherst one, but I guess I'd like everybody to kind of take a look at it, and then we can discuss today and vote on it at the next meeting, if that's. needs
The
whatever
other,
your needs.
the other part that we have, unless it's going to change too, is that the board, the COA board doesn't necessarily have any weight in terms of recommendation. It seems like the town manager would be the appointing entity, and that's the way it is in Northampton.
Well, that's the way it is, I mean, the
It's
select
not-
board is the appointing,
Yeah.
Right,
But the
but-
board,
but-
the
but-
COA board recommends.
Yeah, but I don't know whether the COAs on those, because the application, I know Northampton go directly to the mayor's office. So the board does not have any.
because right now,
I think we
we
want
have-
what we have, don't we?
Well,
Want to
what-
keep the.
our bylaws state that, yeah, we recommend to the select board, and the select
Yeah.
board has the ability to appoint or not appoint. I mean, that's, we
It
can
gives you a
have
little
a
more
discussion.
control too on who
Well,
you're on
that's a
board.
matter of opinion. When you have weighted opinions, okay. Yeah, anyway, so that was that.
So
that-
if you could review it, and in the next meeting, we can kind of finalize it. I really want to try to keep the meetings to no more than an hour and a half, so we'll be done by 11. But I think it's.
Well, maybe if everyone played with it, the two of them, and put something together, that would apply to us.
Or
We could do it.
one is just good.
I mean, everything is there, it's just changing.
I think we need to, I mean,
Need to what?
we've been talking about this for a while. It seems pretty,
Okay.
the next
You wanna-
step into the term limits is a very reasonable, healthy
Yeah.
position to be in. And so the fact that we have alternates was the big hurdle.
Right. Well, is that a motion or something, or?
Well, I could make a motion if we have the consensus. Well, I would move that we amend our bylaw membership, let me look into the heading, section 21.
No, that's the amendment, that's the, amendment.
Oh, the power.
bylaws. Yeah. No, that's
Where's the
that's where we
membership?
amend.
Where's the one
I'm looking for that.
that, term limits, okay. Then we
have to-
change section 6, terms on our bylaw to, this is the absence. What are we going to do about the absence too? Because we have to address Miss Liz, who she said, oh, that would be me, but let's separate that.
I was in school.
I know, no, I'm
No,
saying.
you've been good.
Extenuating circumstances, you gotta add that.
If somebody goes to school, they can be absent. No, I'm just kidding.
So maybe because, there may be some changes, why don't we put this off till next meeting? Because it could, I can see the discussion getting larger. So, we probably could if we want to spend the time, but if we want to be expeditious in our time.
Well, could we get a couple people that might volunteer to just wordsmith something to bring to the,
I'll volunteer.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can help with that.
okay.
Okay, we
So,
got volunteers.
Liz and Nilda, thank you. And
Oh,
then,
no.
I know you're excited.
Yeah, it'll be the
so
first time.
then you present something, to the board at the next meeting, we'll vote it through, and we'll be good.
Could I just
do
make
have
a
enough
comment
copies,
about that?
I did good on the
everybody
mission
knows.
statement, so I might as
haven't
well
looked
bite. I'm sorry.
That's okay, no, I just want to make a comment about excused and absent. If you have a legitimate excuse for not being there, excused. Absent is somebody who doesn't give an excuse and isn't there. So that could be clarified.
That's a very touchy subject with me, so
Okay.
I think
You want that
Josie's right.
included
That might-
in,
Well, I
We're
don't
gonna
know.
discuss next
Are you
meeting, you
discussing just that one addition, or are we discussing the bylaws in general?
Well, let me just state that Ed did come to me
Ed Gibson and said, who has approved your bylaws in town? And I said, the board. And he said, since it's an appointed board, the chances are that we should probably put them in front of the select board for approval. And so once we kind of have the modifications that we're working on, then we have to present them to the select board for their approval.
Well,
So-
it seems if we have to go through the bylaws again, I mean, I think it would be good to do this one about the term limits. We need to. But then maybe we just need to actually look at the whole bylaws, not just one at a time.
Yeah, I agree.
Weren't those
I
done
thought
though
we
by
just,
the...
it was only like a year ago that
Yeah.
we did them, so unless there's something, I mean, please take a look at them if there's something that someone feels needs to be addressed. We can do that at the next meeting.
We have
That
two
could be a
pair of
bylaw.
new eyes too. So.
We can have a bylaw that says that the bylaws will be reviewed annually at a set meeting.
Great.
And then that kind of does the housekeeping
That's
at any period. We're not, because that's an easy one to come up with.
Okay.
The chair has to be responsible for it.
We just add it to the bylaws. Does everyone have a copy of the bylaws? Because if not, I can send.
Is this the complete
I
4
like this
pages?
set though.
Actually, I think there's more pages than 4.
No, there's just 4.
There's just 4, because
For
there's
our
no,
bylaws.
22 sections.
there's no signature page on there.
There is, but there were no signatures on it, on the copy I had.
Okay,
There
so
wasn't
there's
with-
nothing else on that of substance?
We do have a
other than-
signature page, but wasn't electronically.
Okay,
No,
all right.
that's why it's a full page.
So Nilda and Liz will work on that
Yeah.
section, and
We'll bring something
everyone
to
else will
cover.
take a look at the bylaws before the next meeting. Was everybody able, because you sent it in pages, I thought. Did you resend it in Word or no? Did
I
everybody?
sent it in pages, but then I sent it to you in Word, so if somebody couldn't open pages.
Yeah, I
could not open
Yeah,
pages.
Well, I gave you yours.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I purchased about 8 or 10 black binders like this for the senior theater that didn't happen. So maybe each of us would want a black binder to put our paperwork in to organize ourselves.
Were you able to open it? Because we're going to